So another thing I noticed about that fiddle is that when I play it, I guess you're supposed to play it off to the side on your shoulder, but I learned like in front of me. I'll show you in a second because I can see it better. And it's like, I know generally it's good to do things like the way that people are good at it tell you how to do it. But I think sometimes it's good to do it your own way too. I saw a video on a power lifter from the early days of body. It wasn't really bodybuilding, it was more like a powerlifting. It's like during the black and white picture times. And he built all of his equipment at home. And, when he did heavy lifts, he had like bad posture. But he did it that way his whole life. And he set world records doing that. So sometimes, doing things your own way is better for you. But so I guess you're supposed to play it like this on the side. But I learned like this, which I know it looks kind of funny, but I can see my hand and where I'm pressing on the notes much more clearly this way, and it's just more comfortable for me. So I love how this sounds. It sounds so nice. So I was just working on like Sail Away Ladies basically, and I was just like hearing some harmonies in my head I was trying to work out. So it's something like this. I'm trying to work on my new hand posture, playing like this instead of with my wrist on it. And I'm doing okay. It was really hard the first time, but I haven't really practiced, but. Oh, daddy, oh, don't you rock oh, dad. I'm sorry, I haven't played in a long time. I know it's out of tune. I'm learning. That's why I like playing the pairs of notes, because it's a lot easier to hear if I'm in tune or out of tune. I was just learning the other day about it's interesting because these fiddle tunes, they come from a time before modern uh, keys. So you know how modern music is like the key of A or the key of G or the key of C, right? A B C D E F G, or like A flat or B sharp. Like those are the keys that people playing. Well, it's actually crazy because I had this crazy dream where some guy was telling me about the key of X. And I was like, what? The key of X? I was like, that's crazy. So I looked it up online and it led me into this rabbit hole of something they call, I believe, modal tuning, or it's basically what old time and like fiddle music was written in. It wasn't really written in the modern keys like we have today. It was more of a pattern. It was more pattern based, which I found really interesting because um, when I learned the fiddle and the mandolin, which are basically the same strings and same tuning, playing, it's basically like a mandolin is like a plucked violin with double strings basically and frets. So once you can play one, you sort of know where the notes are on the other one. And I found them, I learned them by ear, and I found them very intuitive to learn by ear, especially compared to guitar, which I played most of my life. And so it was cool to have that modal keys, or I forget what they call it, like folk tuning, like fiddle tuning. But it's interesting because I noticed there are places on here. Well, so most traditional folk tunes are like in the key of G or C for the most part. There's other ones, but those are the most common. And even in modern music, those are very common keys. So I figured out when I was playing along with people that there's a pattern that almost always sounds good. And it's right here and here on almost every string. The top and bottom string, sometimes one note is off by a little bit, but for the two middle strings, it's here and here and here and here. And like Sailing Across the Ocean, Handsome Molly is a great example of learning those notes. They're great for learning how to play in tune, so that you can start playing individual notes and be sure that you're in tune. Because it's very easy to hear when you're out of tune with two strings. So I'll show you the notes, okay? So if you're playing the first two strings, the two lowest ones, then you put your first finger right about here on the second string. And you can just like slide your finger up and down as you play to hear it go into tune. I mean, obviously you do need a bit of a musical ear, and I'm not perfect. I don't have a perfect ear, but I can tell when it's pretty in tune. And then the next one is going to be about up here where your third finger sort of naturally lands. There's a gap about this big. First try. Hear how perfectly in tune that is. That's actually the same note, I believe. Not 100% sure. So then your hand sort of naturally falls this way. First finger, third finger on the second string. Then you do the same thing on this next set of strings. So the middle two. And I'll move my hand up and down until it sounds in tune to me. So that's the basic pattern, and it works on mandolin, and it works sort of on the bottom and top strings, but depending on if you're playing in C or if you're playing in G, some of the notes will not sound correct on the top and bottom string, but sometimes they do sound correct. So you have to just listen to if it sounds good or not. So those are the notes I would recommend for starting off. And a good song, if you look up the scales, you see how my second finger lands almost to where my third finger lands? Depending if you're in C or in G, that's where the note's going to be. If one of your notes doesn't sound right, it's because you need that one actually. But I'm not that good yet. I don't really know. Something like that. But I found that you don't need a lot of notes to sound good. I found that if you just figure out 2 or 3 notes that are in harmony with the song, you can sound good just being in the background. And I like playing like that along with people too. Because it adds like some rhythm. I really like the rhythm. It kind of adds a beat, because a lot of acoustic old time music, there's no drums. And a lot of times the beat isn't really super obvious compared to when you have like a drum set going. So, and plus I like to not overwhelm the music. Like I like to add just like a little bit. Like if I'm not sounding good, I don't play very loudly, or I don't play at all if I can't find a note that doesn't sound like it's in tune. But then if I do hear what I'm playing is sounding like pretty good or like not bad, it gives me more confidence to play a little louder. But you still got to respect the other instruments that you're playing with and try not to, overwhelm them. You're trying to have like a symphony. You're trying to have like a complement with an E. You're trying to complement each other, give each other space, but also take a space when there's one for you, And it just sounds so much better if you do that. And a lot of people seems like they do that automatically, which is really cool in the old time sort of fiddle playing groups. But so I'll show you a song that incorporates those notes. It's good to practice for like learning that basic shape pattern for the key of X, I'll call it, even though it's not modal tuning, I guess is what it's called or something. It's, I guess, Baroque music and folk and old fiddle music and old time music uses this type of tuning where it's more pattern based than key based, which is pretty interesting, I think. But anyway, here's the song. So that's the song. I like to add on to it like this. I wish I was. I can't really sing that loudly and play at the same time because like my ears are pretty sensitive these days for some reason. I'll try. So it's like, I wish I was in London or any sailing town. I'd step my foot on a steamboat and sail the world around, sailing around the ocean, sailing around the sea. I think of handsome Molly, wherever she may be. And these are the notes. So it's the same pattern I just showed you on the 2 middle strings. I wish I was in London. Oh. Yeah, I don't know whether to sing in a high voice or a low voice, so I always switch between them. I wish I was in London, any seaport town, I'd step my foot on steamboat and sail the world around. So that's the single note melody, and now you can combine it with multiple strings. So if I play the same pattern, but instead of just doing the second string like this, I do the first string along with it. And that gives you the beautiful harmony. So then the second, so it's And then it's the second two strings alone. And then on the third string, still playing the second two strings. So that's, but you play them together. Then back to the first two. So that's a great learning song in my opinion, because it covers that very simple pattern. And all those notes go along really well, usually, for most old-time music I've found in C and G. And even in other keys, a lot of those notes work well, I've found. So that's pretty much it. Amazing instrument these things are. I thought this thing, it's kind of funny, I thought this thing was kind of evil when I bought it a little bit. I went through a phase of thinking it's evil because it's like, you know, dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. And these things really do make people dance and stay up late and play music, you know. It's against, you know, wholesome goodness. Kind of funny. It's kind of true a little bit. I mean, compared to modern devices, it's nothing, you know. It's probably more good than bad. It's just funny. Like, because if you think about all the acoustic instruments, about what single acoustic instrument gets people to dance and have the most fun, I would say generally it's accordions and fiddles. So, you know, there's some truth to that, dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. It's so funny. I did stay up all night one time at a festival playing, you know, a guy was playing a fiddle, I was playing the mandolin, another guy was playing the double bass. We had such an amazingly good time until the sun came up. Felt like I'd beat the game, you know. It was so awesome. So I don't know if I'm going to be, I really want to go to the festivals again this year, the old time music festivals, because they're so good. It's such a good combination of like wholesome people and yet still having fun and playing music. It's not all like drugged out and like stupid people like Bonnaroo and stuff, you know. It's like good upstanding people that are still, you know, having fun and playing music. It's the best combination. But I'm getting really tired of driving, and I'm just tired in general. So on that note, was planning on closing my eyes for a while today. I said to myself, I'm just going to practice the fiddle with my eyes closed. Because like lately my body has not been tired, but my eyes have been. So anyway, just wanted to share with you guys my little fill here. Here comes a truck. Look out. I like all the train noises and stuff you can do with this thing. Anyway, have fun, guys. See you next time.